Sex workers of Reddit, what is the worst request a client has given you? I had a guy once ask me to just lay completely still. He did the same, blinked kinda hard when he came, and was done. Stared into my eyes the whole time. The most awkward fuck of my life. But at least I got paid. I haven't had too many bad experiences, but I did get a pretty unique request. So I do online work. I had a guy sexting me one day who told me sponges turn him on. The word sponge, the smell of one, touching one, doing dishes, all of it. So we role-played like I was washing dishes, and I sent him a little video of me cleaning with a sponge, like, look how soapy and sudsy my sponge is getting. I'm trying to clean up, but I'm just making such a mess, and he ate that shit up. It's nice to get something completely brand new every once in a while, lol. Plus I was getting chores done at the same time. I punched a pillow as hard as I can for an hour, while saying his mom's name. It was definitely arm day that day. So I have a genuine fear of balloons, latex balloons specifically. I've posted about it jokingly online, but for the most part it's not widely known. A man messaged me a few months back asking for feet pictures, and I was super excited that it had finally happened to me. I used to get so jealous of girls that would be asked for feet pics and turn them down like, honey, send them my way. Turns out, he has a foot fetish, but he's also a lunar. He has a balloon fetish. I thought it was a friend pranking me at first, but he was legit. He knows about my fear of balloons, so we've settled on using a beach ball as a compromise. Every few months, I hump a beach ball fully clothed for a minute or two and make big money $. One guy used to want me to make him cum in a spoon and then feed it to him. That was weird. Another guy kept insisting that I tell him that I love him. That just made me sad. I now wonder if I'm good looking enough to make money shitting on people off of Craigslist. Thanks, Reddit. I sold foot pics /videos /Skype sessions a few years ago, before the market became absolutely flooded. I had a lot of people asking for me to stomp on small animals, bugs, mice, reptiles, etc. That's against my moral code, and icky, so I never did it, but even if I was willing to do it, they wouldn't pay very much for it. Also saw some messages from a friend I made in the business where some French dude asked her to cut off a toe and sell it to him, so he could eat it. Not sure if he was just trolling, but honestly I would not be surprised if he was serious. Or of course there's the people who asked if I had any naughty photos of myself from before I turned 18. He had a load of big blackheads and dilated pores of whiners on his back, and he asked me to pop them and eat them. I declined. This same guy liked being pissed on, being puked on, and sticking his fingers up my nose and eating my snot. Also one guy asked me to shit in his mouth. Nope. Some weird ones. One client had a foot fetish and would spend his 45-minute session putting bulldog clips on the underside of my feet. It was pretty painful, but I got paid well and didn't have to do anything physical with him. In the intro room the client told me he wasn't looking for anything physical but asked if I would walk on his back. Easy, I'm in. Go into the booking, and what he actually wanted was for me to walk on his back in stilettos, engrave in fake initials onto his chest with my heel, stomp on his genitals, walk on his face, spit on and demean him. It was actually one of the most horrendous things I ever did. I'd rather fuck a creepy old dude than ever take a booking like that again. I had a guy book an appointment. The screening and everything leading up to the appointment was totally normal. A few important things to note: he and I were about the same age, late 20s, and I do not advertise fetish. My brand is pretty much girl next door. I arrive, we chat a bit. Then suddenly he asks me to roleplay. Things escalate quickly as he wants me to be his stepmother and torture his balls. That appointment ended quickly. Not a sex worker, but I used to live close to a gaga bar in Thailand. I would eat in the same places as the workers there. Countless stories about men wanting to defecate on them or them doing it on the customers. One guy, he was very tall and wide. He rented all the girl in the club and the mamazan. Must have been 15 or so. They just had to lie next to him and cuddle for the whole night. Gave all of them a huge tip. Came in every night for 2 weeks. The bonus for me was that the place closed early and I did not have to listen to the crappy music every night. My friend is, and she has a regular client who asks that she spits orange juice in his eyes. Some guy wanted my friend to shove a cucumber up his arse. He paid her £500 for a 20-minute stunt with the cucumber. She did it gladly but was kinda concerned for the guy. Not a sex worker, but I had a guy ask me if I could get my dental records and read them to him. He also wanted to tell him how much pain was involved with my procedures. Another time, right in the midst of things, he asks if he can cath me. Fuck, I was outta there. My mom used to be a sex worker, and one time this guy wanted her to stab a hamster to death with a syringe. He provided the hamster and syringe in front of him. She stole the hamster and his money without doing it. $2,000 to send a vid of me having sex. My dog. I blocked him. I work with a 94-year-old dementia patient. He wants to pay me $100 to just lick my big titties just once, sit in his lap, motorboat my titties, just let me play with you a little. Not a sex worker, but he makes me feel like one. To go to Starbucks, ask for a cup, pee in it, leave it there for him to drink it. 2K. Most guys were very normal, they wanted to be pegged or have me dressed up, but this one, OMG. I died laughing when he texted me what he wanted. Edit. Also, the professor at a very well-known university in the US used to make me meet him and give him my underwear, 100 per pair, and then at the Target we'd meet, I'd buy some more, lol. Coworker used to work with a guy who is into scat. Except this scat involved a glass table. Apparently he liked the woman to sit on top of the glass table and shit while he laid under it and beat off. Living in Athens, working for peanuts, I lived in a cheap apartment in a seedier part of town. I got to meet all the neighbors over the time I was there. The lady in the basement was running a brothel. She was usually the only one working. Every Sunday 3 men, an old man, a middle-aged and young man, would rock up and sit outside her door. One day, when we got on familiar enough terms, I asked her, "How come you entertain these 3 same time every week?" She said it was a tradition among some Greek families, this one in particular, that son, father and grandfather would call into a brothel and have sex on the way home from church. They were sharing the same prostitute. I don't know whether it is generally a tradition or not, but it was with this family. I knew a guy who started doing foot fetish work on Craigslist because he had huge feet. He'd go to someone's house and they would worship and play with his feet while they jerked themselves off. No actual sex involved. Then it escalated to where he started pissing on customers. Then one day a man asked to get shat on. It was a nice sum of money, so the guy lay down on the floor while my friend crouched over him and dropped a hot, slippery turd in the guy's mouth. A guy wanted me to sell him videos of me pooping as well as sell him my actual shit and piss in a jar. It would have been an over $1,000 job, but no way could I do it. Also was asked to sell a video of my boyfriend peeing on my face and in my mouth. Said no to that one too. Idama online. Well, one client really gets off on the whole human toilet thing and it's going fine, I guess. Make him lick toilets, degrading him, make him film himself so I can show other doms and they can all laugh at him cause he gets off on that shit, pun intended. Then he requests that I shit in a jar and mail it to him so he can eat it. So anyway, I know that's not incredibly wild, but it's the one that sticks out in my mind. Reddit makes me believe that sex workers never actually have sex with their clients, they just beat their balls and poop on them. I have a friend who blew an old, fat and stinky guy for a PS1 when the PS2 was already out. I used to know a sex worker and she used to say that the most common weird thing she gets, which is actually really common, is guys wanting her to bend over naked and fart in their face. Not a sex worker, but once dated a guy into spicy stuff. It got so spicy he wanted me to agree to be bundled up in his car boot while he drove me out into the forest and watched me dig my own, pretend, grave while he held me at, pretend, gunpoint. I declined. I'd found my limit. The scary part was that I asked him, "So what are you going to do when that isn't enough?" And he replied, "Dunno, haven't got past this bit yet, but I do know I have a problem." Ex-sex worker but stepchild shit for sure kink-wise. But honestly, any sex worker will tell you the worst request is constantly being asked to have unsafe sex or compromise your worth. It's the absolute worst part. Many years ago I worked security in a gentleman's club. Every 5 or 6 weeks this one dude would come in and have a special request. Always the same request. So we put him and the lady in a monitored booth. CCTV so we can make sure there ain't no violence or shit. So anyway, this bloke's request would be to have our lady with the biggest natural boobs to be completely naked and wearing red high heels. Then he would want her to jump on and generally grind/stamp on his ball bag and penis, whilst making her boobs bounce as much as possible. He wouldn't get off until he was bleeding, then he wanted her to piss on him after he'd finished. Each time he'd be paying like £200 for this. He was a strange dude. I definitely got the rapey/stalker feeling from him. Easy money for the lady though. I acted out the request of a rape roleplay which fucked me up emotionally for years. The guy gave off serial killer vibes and I didn't have any friends or family at the time and I was terrified I'd just disappear without anyone knowing. I restructured how I worked after that night and started working primarily as a dama, so I felt like I had more control of my encounters with clients. That night was almost 7 years ago, and I've been done with sex work for 5 years. Shortly after I quit, I had an experience where I was actually raped, and anytime I think of the roleplay I get a nauseous feeling in my stomach for doing it. Here we go. Had a roommate in college, 2000s, who did private adult videos by request only, basically expensive personalized video porn. She came home pretty bummed one day and I asked what was up. She said she had been paid $500 to put on an adult diaper and comically large baby bonnet and walk otherwise naked around a local college green space. The whole video was her walking around with her fingers in her mouth acting like a confused adult baby. At the end she was told to pee in the diaper and show the camera. When she thought she was done, the director asked if she wanted to poo in the diaper for $1,500 instead of $500, saying the client asked if it was possible. She declined immediately and the director was, I guess, okay with it. She was bummed she missed out on making an extra $1,000 because she had pooped before going to work. We both laughed so fucking hard. What a ridiculous thought. Darn, if only I hadn't pooped before work I'd be making some real money. Later in life I worked with her in an office and, I still don't know why TF this happened, a guy came in one day. He was really soft-spoken and had a thick accent and I called her over to help me understand his quiet mumbling. When she came over and asked him, his second reply was clear as a bell. Do you have dolphin sex? What? No. I replied in stunned disbelief. He turned to my friend and says in relatively broken but clear English, how much you sex dog? I had to hold back laughing while I escorted him off premises. I don't know why that store, or him, or her, or dolphins. I just don't fucking know. Had a 20-something Japanese man with Yakuza tattoos ask me, a Beacons of Gondor level white woman, to step on him and call him all sorts of extremely racist names. We spoke about what he wanted prior and although he specifically asked for these terms and paid extra because it was so offensive, I still feel kind of ew when I think about. The least offensive was along the lines of calling him my little bitch slave to a white queen. He clearly had a very big race kink. Gorgeous tats too. I actually set up this account to mostly sell pics of my feet but progressed to tights/panties and a few videos, so not a full-time sex worker but made some money from this kind of thing. Anyway, there was one guy who always wanted to buy my used tampons. He specifically wanted them as fresh as possible. Oh, and another guy always sent messages about videos of me sitting on balloons and bouncing on them until they popped. Not a bad one, just random. I figured in the end that if you can think of any fetish then there is someone out there that has it. A doctor friend of mine told me about a patient that comes in at least once a month to have a potato removed from his arse. This is all the info I have, and more than I want. Not a sex worker, but my ex was. An old guy used to come in occasionally and pay to be walked around on a leash like a dog, and at the end of the night he'd take home all of the used condoms and suck each one clean. I'm not even kidding. I put on my robe and wizard hat. A guy asked me to put cat shit in my ass. I declined and I quit camming soon after. That request made me question everything. I don't even have a cat. Gay couple here. We do live cam sessions. Sometimes we get private requests for fetish sessions, no problem. One guy was really into flip-flops. Wanted us to do a full sex session with flip-flops on. Easy. Except we got into the session and he kept sending messages. Put your feet flat on the table so I can see them. So we get into this really awkward penetrative position trying to keep our feet flat on the coffee table. Then whenever we'd move our feet in the slightest he'd be like feet flat on the table. Then he complained about the expense after. The sweetest one was a guy who just wanted to see us wash and dry each other's hair shirtless. That was cute. There's a guy on here a year or so ago who says he wants to hire someone to murder him while he has sex. It turns him on that much. I wonder if he ever fulfilled his dream. He also said his upbringing was completely normal, great childhood, it's just his kink extreme pain and sex. Obligatory. Not a sex worker, but I had a friend who used to sell used underwear online, and she said the worst request she ever had was a guy who wanted her to wear little girl's underwear and send it to him. He also wanted a video of her crying. He said he had a rape fantasy kink and he also had a young daughter that my friend apparently resembled. Pretty sure she reported him. This was years ago, but it stands out as being gross to me. While in Thailand, I knew a guy that paid a lady of the night to give her a massage. She looked really uncomfortable with him massaging her shoulders. Can't really describe the cringe. I tried being a sugar baby for a short while but ended up giving up due to me realizing that pretty much the only people contacting me were married and cheating on their wives. I realized that I was old enough to be some of these men's daughters, 21 at the time, and I just couldn't do it in good conscience. Plus the pay was never what I expected, but at least I got some nice sushi lunch dates and one guy gave me an Amazon gift card, so that was a plus. LOL shrug. Also there was one guy that I had a one-night stand with that asked me to tell him I loved him. He was so hot. NGL probs the most physically attractive person I've ever been with. But it was weirdly too intimate and I never saw him again. Bye guy. Not really a sex worker, but when I was younger, I used to occasionally trade sex for cash with guys I met on Craigslist. One older man used to slather on lipstick before giving me oral. He got off on seeing my dick and ass smeared with lipstick. Afterward, he would insist on cleaning me off with baby wipes. That was actually the most weirdly intimate part for me, getting cleaned by him. Saw him only a few times, but scented baby wipes still bring back awkward memories. Former escort. One client kept asking for increasingly degrading and violent requests, mostly just fucking him. Strap on a smacking him around a bit. Fine. He then upped the game to begging me to castrate him. I refused. He said he found someone who would do it, a former nurse or something. He wanted me to watch. Never responded. Then he contacted me again begging me to snuff him. Didn't understand what he meant until I looked it up. He wanted me to kill him. I had to explain that I'm not in the murder game and that being killed isn't a kink, you can't get off when you're dead. Guy was a pilot for a major airlines. Not gonna lie, give me creeps to think someone with that kind of depression is supposed to keep hundreds of people safe at high altitude. Not a sex worker, but I've been friends with women who were. One was a dominatrix who was requested to dress as a nun, and flog a dude who jerked it onto a painting of Jesus. Another friend was a phone sex worker, and a guy asked her to keep snorting like a pig while he beat off. After 20 minutes, and a sore throat for her, he asked her to squeal, "Please don't make me into bacon." She said she burst into uncontrollable laughter, and he was pissed because she ruined his orgasm. Now I kind of want to hire a girl to help me do house repairs, so it shows up on one of these in the future. A guy had me come help put up drywall. Not a sex worker, but a public defender. This is non-confidential material that was produced in open court. A prostitute was arrested during an undercover law enforcement operation. The cops suspected she had a pimp and went through her cell phone. One of the incriminating text chains went like this: "Prostitute, be on standby, this guy is really drunk and I don't know what he wants." Pimp: "Okay prostitute, okay, I figured it out. He wants me to suck you off and then you cum in his face. He has $200. What do you want me to tell him?" Pimp: "I'll be there in 5 minutes." Not a sex worker, but met one at the pub once. They told me about their client they just had. Every few months he would get his service done. What would happen was, the sex worker would collect all her shit for a month or two. Then, when she had enough, she would let him know. He would come in, dress up as a baby in a diaper. He would lay down on a big length of carpet and she would tip the shit all over him. Then roll him up in the carpet and leave him alone for a few hours, then come back, unroll him, and that was that, job done.